Sam Yarnell will be here, as he always is. He's got a lot to say about the World Cup. Look, credit to him. Sam said he thought the United States was going to get beaten. He didn't have much doubt about it. And they got beaten. We'll get into that in just a couple of minutes here in the big story. Our friend Kavitha Davidson's going to be here, and it's a bad job by me. I haven't had her on in a while. Friend of the show, somebody I really value her opinions on everything sports related. She is terrific. She does a great job. She's a columnist. She is a commentator. She is a sports historian. She really covers the whole gamut. Used to work with the folks over at Real Sports at HBO, Emmy Award winner. Look forward to talking to her coming up a little later on in this show as well. New segment coming up on SportsWrap today. Hot Take Tuesday. And wait until you hear what I have to say about two players in the WNBA. That's coming up a little later on. Odds and ends, we've got Wimbledon covered. A story that went under the radar this weekend that I want to get to from Major League Baseball as well. But we start things out as we always do on this Tuesday edition of the show. It's time for the big story. And the big story is presented by The Daily Wrap. It's SportsWrap's daily Substack newsletter. All you got to do is scan the QR code. Take out your phone, scan the QR code that's on the screen, and you get access to our daily newsletter. It's free and easy to subscribe. Go and do it right now. You can also do it over at sportswrap.tv. You can subscribe to the Daily Wrap newsletter as well. We're covering the top stories of the day in that newsletter. It's available early each afternoon. Let me talk about the World Cup here, because a lot of people have opinions. A lot of people are obviously disappointed. And when the United States was winning early on in this tournament, and look, I will admit, I allowed myself to buy in. After the win in the last round against Bosnia and Herzegovina, for the first time, I actually allowed myself to dream a little bit. I didn't open myself up all the way, because you knew the eventual disappointment was likely going to come. Not because the U.S. is bad or anybody stinks or anything like that. It's just we are not at the level, as we always say. There are levels to this thing. The United States is not at the level of a Belgium. It's not at the level of some of these top programs around the world. These top clubs, these top teams around the world. But they were beaten 4-1 last night. And while some people say the score may not have been indicative of, what went on in this game, the U.S. had some opportunities, wasn't able to cash them in. The reality is this. The United States lost to a vastly superior soccer team. And let me just say this. It is the epitome of lazy thinking, lazy punditry, lazy journalism for people to go on TV, radio, podcasts, social media, and sit here and blame this loss on Donald Trump getting involved and perhaps helping to get the red card, 1-game suspension, the 1-game ban for Balogun, to have that overturned. If you think that's the reason the United States lost to Belgium, do me a favor, right now. Turn off your television, turn off the radio, turn off all your social media, go sit in a dark room somewhere and do some thinking. Do some pondering about what's going on in your head. Because that had nothing to do with this. The United States didn't lose because they had one of their better players on the field. They lost because the players they had on the field weren't as good as the players they were playing against. Plain and simple. And I'm talking to you, Christine Brennan, who I generally like, but I'm going to call you out. Because if you want to go on CNN and flap your gums about, well, maybe the U.S. lost because of the red card controversy. Maybe the guys were out there thinking about that. Do you think guys who are running up and down the pitch, trying to make plays, trying to score goals, trying to stop goals from being scored, if you think the reason they lost that game is because those guys on the pitch are out there thinking about some phone call that may have taken place between Donald Trump and Gianni Infantino and FIFA overturning this one-game ban on Balogun, you're out of your mind. You're lazy thinking. You're struggling to grasp the point. And you clearly don't watch. Even I know that there are levels to this thing. It is not surprising that the U.S. lost to Belgium. The final score may have been surprising. The sloppiness from the United States, that may have been surprising. But the outcome of this game should have been a surprise to nobody who's been paying attention to this World Cup. And again, the levels there are to this thing. Now, they always say leave on a positive. So for the big story, I'm going to leave on a positive. Here's what we got out of the U.S. They got wins. They excited fans. They continue to draw interest. They are helping to bring about the next generation of football, soccer players in the United States. Kids that might have been considering one sport, deciding, you know what, Dad? I want to get enrolled in a soccer league because I watched the U.S. win a few games in this World Cup. I want to go and sign up and play soccer, next fall or next summer or whenever your particular league is, because they were exciting. Here's the other big takeaway. The United States finally has athletes that can play soccer. For a long time, we've had athletes, and athleticism is great. But athleticism combined with guys that understand how to play the game, that's a good thing. And what I saw through the 5 games that the United States played is they have guys now that understand the game of soccer, and they're athletic, and they can put balls in the net. When for so many years it felt like the United States was just hanging on to try and keep games close, 1-0, 1-1, 2-1. This team feels like, and this group feels like, it has players that can score and put the ball in the back of the net. And that's encouraging for the future as well. Ultimately, all of this boils down to how the United States capitalizes on this moment, and that's something we won't know for another 4 years. We're back with Sam Yarnell next. Welcome back to the show. Coming up in 10 minutes, Kavitha Davidson, sports columnist, commentator, historian. All right, folks. I said yesterday on the show it was going to go one of two ways. We'd either be hammering Sam for a bad prediction, or we would be having him come on and gloat about the fact that the U.S. lost in the World Cup round of 16. And it wound up being the latter, Sam Yarnell, who joins us every day here on the show. Well, Sam, I always go back. My fallback line is the movie Cinderella Man, when Max Baer turns to James J. Braddock and goes, people die in fairy tales all the time. Well, that was the death at the end of a fairy tale, watching the U.S. lose that game 4-1. I had my say in the big story. Go ahead. It's all you.
Yeah, Jason. I mean, that was awful. I mean, I don't even know how to put it into words, right? I had a tweet last night that I think kind of summarized it all as best as possible.
Yeah.
The haters and doubters said that the U.S. men's national team didn't stand a chance against a real team, wouldn't be able to hold their own, and would embarrass themselves against Belgium. Credit to the haters and doubters. They absolutely nailed this one. Couldn't have gotten it more right there. This was embarrassing. This was awful. This was a game that made you feel like U.S. soccer as an organization took about 3 steps backwards from where they had tried to pretend like they were building over the course of the last 12 years, really. This was awful. I said it yesterday. You had kind of the sense coming into the tournament that, the entire golden generation around U.S. men's soccer was a farce, but to have an embarrassment of this level It was just crazy. You had this is a rare thing, and I know soccer is it's a beautiful game, right? It's an international game. It brings people together. It is still, even within soccer, hard to get the entire world to make fun of the same thing at the same time. The entire world was making fun of the U.S. men's national team last night. From Bosnia and Herzegovina, the team that the U.S. literally eliminated in the last round, using their official soccer account to troll the U.S. during the game. You had the Belgian official soccer account trolling the U.S. after the game. I mean, this was an abomination for U.S. soccer, Jason. You think about the great embarrassments of U.S. sport over the course of the last decade, even 20 years. This has to be right up there. I mean, 4-1 in a game where, let's not forget this, the game was tied. If you include 0-0, the game was tied for a grand total of 10 minutes. That is ridiculous. An embarrassment for all 90 minutes last night for the U.S. men's national team. I don't know where you go from here. I really don't.
I think you're overstating it a little bit. They obviously didn't play well last night, and credit goes to Belgium for that. There was going to be a step up in class. Playing against a top 10 team in the world. And sure, there was some regression to the mean, I think, for the United States in this game. I'm not going to sit here and blow sunshine up anybody's butts here and say that, the U.S. is on the level. It should have been better than 4-1. However, the takeaways that I had, and I talked about it in the big story, and I'll express them briefly here because I wanted to give you the chance because you did predict accurately that the United States would lose this game. The things that I still take away from the overall experience of the United States men's national team in this tournament is they're actually going in the right direction. I disagree that, this set the program back 12 years or something like that. They have goal scorers. They have athletes. They played sloppy last night. They made mistakes you cannot make. You can get away with making some of these mistakes against a Bosnia-Herzegovina or a team like Australia or Paraguay. You cannot make the sorts of mistakes they made last night against a team from Belgium, a team with depth. The other big takeaway from this is the United States needs more depth. They don't have enough of it. That's one of the takeaways from this. I still think the overall experience from this should push the United States forward. I also said this in SportsWrap Shorts last night when I talked about this after the game. What's most important now is what happens between now and 2030. That's what's most important, I think, is how does the United States build on this? Because if they go out in 4 years and don't make it to the knockout stage or take a step backwards for whatever reason, then you have to worry about whether or not this was just an aberration, whether or not they just got hot for a couple of days, whether it was teams having to travel to the U.S. and home field advantage and all of that. But to me, I still think the overall takeaway should be positive for soccer fans in the United States. Go ahead.
Yeah, I completely disagree. I think that you have to think about this within the context of everything around this World Cup. They had one of the easiest groups due to the fact that they were a host nation. They didn't have to qualify for the World Cup and were still handed one of the easiest groups on paper. They lost a group stage match to a team that didn't win another game in the tournament in Turkey, right? And we're back to the same story that it is every World Cup, which is the U.S. men's national team eventually runs into a real team from Europe. And also, by the way, let's just let the record show, Belgium didn't play their 3 best outfield players in that game. I think probably pretty intentionally with the whole Flo Balogun controversy going on in Belgium knew, hey, we probably don't have to play our best players and we can really stick it to them by not doing this. You didn't have Lukaku, Doku, or De Bruyne in the starting 11. De Bruyne didn't touch the pitch at all. He is arguably the best outfield player for that Belgian team.
I saw him sitting on the sideline.
it was just really, it was an abomination for the U.S. men's national team. And on top of all of this, right, you talk about building, the guy who this entire program, this entire team has been built around for the last, again, 10 years at this point, is Christian Pulisic. And all he's shown you that he does on the biggest stages is absolutely throw up. I think his average match rating since he said he was going to sit out the Gold Cup to prepare for the World Cup, average match rating of 6.6. That cannot happen for your number 10. That cannot happen for your best player. That is an embarrassing best player to have, and try to pretend that you're one of these all-time great nations in soccer. You're not, USA. Wake up.
I don't think anybody was, see, and again, this is where I think you're overstating it. Nobody was claiming they were one of the all-time greatest programs. Only people that don't follow soccer, even I that doesn't follow soccer, knows they're not one of the greatest all-time programs, but it is a stepping stone for the future. We'll see what they do over the next 4 years. We're coming back. Welcome back to this Tuesday edition of the show. I've said what I had to say in the big story. Sam Yarnell has weighed in and just basically lambasted the U.S. men's national soccer team. Look, he's got a right to take a victory lap. He said they were going to get blitzed by Belgium, and they did. Long time since we talked to this fine human being. The amazing Kavitha Davidson is here, who does a terrific job on all things sports. Columnist over at MS Now. She does stuff on the History Channel. Commentator. She's a great follow on social media, wherever she is. I just love talking to her, and it's been too long, my friend, since we have spoken. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I promise that I don't talk about aliens on the History Channel.
No. You wrote a column before we get to your column on MS Now, which talked about this whole thing with Trump, the red card, the Gianni Infantino, FIFA, all of that stuff. Let's not pretend we're all soccer aficionados here.
I'll be the first to admit.
I always tell that. Yeah. I always tell people that
I understand as much as actual soccer analysts.
Right. So, but that being said, Sam's take was that basically, last night was so bad and so revealing that it set back most of what the U.S. did over the last few weeks of this World Cup. Do you agree with that?
I do agree with that. I think it's really unfortunate that the conversation beforehand had to be about what I wrote about, because it could have just been about the soccer and the fact that the U.S. was not favored in this match. They should not have been, at least. But the showing that they put out last night was embarrassing compared to the overachieving that they've done throughout this tournament until now. Also, the formations didn't make any sense. It felt like Balogun was 1-on-3 many times. The back two was terrible. Like, defense clearing the ball 3 times, they couldn't clear the ball. Twice it led to a goal, right? So yes, I do agree with Sam in that just the on the field stuff last night set U.S. soccer's perception in the world back a lot.
Combined with the Balogun red card stuff, and everything that was wrapped around that, does it take some of the joy? Did it all take some of the joy out of what should have been a really celebratory mood around this program? Did it take some of that? Does it take that? Does that happen for you?
It might for a lot of fans. I will say that American fans, we are a lot more reactionary sometimes than other fans can be. You look at the welcoming parade that Capo Verde's team rightfully got when they landed home. Listen, you can go back, and I'm on the record saying this in my World Cup preview for NPR. Most actual analysts, and then me, thought that if the United States had gotten to the round of 16, which we did, that was the goal. So they achieved that goal in this expanded field on the biggest stage in soccer. Now, I think it's disappointing. It takes some of the joy out in the sense that because of how well they had played until now, there was a sense that maybe the quarterfinals were in reach. But that would have been so much gravy. And I think we have to keep that perspective.
Yeah, I agree with you. You wrote a column for MS Now about the whole Trump FIFA, involvement in getting this red card rescinded for Balogun. What was your overall takeaway from the way all this transpired? Because a lot of people are saying, yes, we hate that he did it, but we're glad the outcome was Balogun was on the field because he should have been on the field.
Yeah, I think most people agree. This is my stance, and I think most people agree that it shouldn't have been a red card. There were misused protocols in using slow-mo and still video in order to determine that it was a penalty. It also didn't seem like there was intent. It also didn't seem like there was one still where he was looking behind him, but for the most part, his body was turned away. Like there are all kinds of, again, people who are well more versed in on-pitch soccer than I am have said that they didn't think that it should have been a red card. So we need to establish that, right? I tried really hard in this column not to use the words two wrongs don't make a right. But I do believe that. And also it just seems that Trump's inserting himself in this situation, and it seems like it was the administration and then led up to Trump, was wholly unnecessary. According to FIFA, now we can always only take FIFA at its word.
Which isn't much. Yeah.
So much. FIFA was already reviewing this that Wednesday night onward. So the point of the column was that there was so much goodwill that had been built up both on the pitch and off for this American team. Now, that doesn't include all of the awful things that we had done as a country to the Iranian team, to a Somali referee, to fans trying to get in, travel bans, and a lot of things there. But for a lot of people had a really good time throughout our beautiful nation. And they saw things here that, again, I've never seen as a born and raised American. And I think that it's just really a shame that because of Infantino and Trump and the powers that be, that's not the taste that's left in our mouth after this.
Yeah. I think the next 4 years is critical, though. It's what they do from here. Because if you come back in 4 years and you miss the knockout stage, then all of this hullabaloo around this, I know I used the word hullabaloo, all of this hullabaloo around this basically meant this was an aberration. Because I feel like what the product that I saw, the athleticism I saw, the ability to score, something that's been missing from this program for so long is the ability to actually put the ball in the back of the net. Mm-hmm. The fact that I saw so much more of that gives me hope that, look, I'm the guy that's going to forget about soccer for the next 4 years. I fully admit that. But I feel like in another 4 years, it should be in a better place that it is expected to compete for something beyond the round of 16.
I think it is, and I think it will be, and we also can't forget about the women who have absolutely paved the way for any American to actually understand and care about soccer.
Yeah.
At the same time, at least in my circles, my friends who care about soccer very much care about European and South American soccer.
Sure. Kavitha Davidson's hanging out with us. I want to get on a couple of things with her aside from FIFA and the World Cup. We'll do that as SportsWrap continues. We are so lucky to have Kavitha Davidson hanging out with us on this Tuesday edition of the show. I absolutely love her work. Wrote a column for MS Now we're both columnists at MS Now. She wrote a great column on the Trump red card FIFA Balogun thing. You can go check that out. We'll link to it in the comments on the YouTube version of the show. For those of you in the TV audience, just go and check her out. She's on X as well, at Kavitha Davidson. I don't think I've talked to you since the whole Diana Rossini, Mike Vrabel thing happened. I don't think we've talked. I almost lost, and I've been transparent. I've known Diana for 20 years. and we are professionally friendly. Like we can have a conversation beyond football and, you know, hot takes on the NFL and who's player movement and things like that. And I've always really appreciated her. This whole thing now has devolved to a level that I'm just ashamed sometimes to be part of the media when I see things like I'm going through my X feed yesterday, or as my husband calls it, doom scrolling, and I'm going through and I see the New York Post posting a post on this, a post from the New York Post, where they're showing video of Diana Russini on a cruise that she's on. I knew she was going on this cruise because her and I had actually texted before she went on the cruise, where she is on a cruise ship with her husband, holding one of her kids. They're blurring out one of the kids' faces. What are we doing, Kavitha? Yeah. This is not necessary. This is not necessary in any way, shape, or form. What is happening here?
It's not necessary. I will say I don't personally know Diana Russini. I take extreme issue with any journalist, man or woman, who has an inappropriate relationship with their sources. I think you and I have talked online about how that often extends to non-sexual relationships that are still inappropriate between reporters and their sources. But at this point, she's resigned from her position. I don't think there's a further story unless people are uncovering other stories that she has reported on. But her being on vacation with her family, with her kids, should kind of be off limits. And I don't see this level of scrutiny for Mike Vrabel. So it does scream double standard to me.
We've had a lot longer to sort of marinate in this whole thing. What is we all like to think of teachable moments. You know, I've spoken to college communications classes and journalism classes. I'm sure on some level you have. Not that I've ever asked you that, but I'm sure you've spoken to, classes and things like that. Is it really as simple as don't get too close to your sources? Like, especially in this day and age where the lines are more blurred, it's a lot to think about.
So certain lines are more blurred now than they were before. I think those are the lines between journalism and entertainment, right? I'm not saying that Diana falls into one or the other. Those are the lines that I think that are more blurred now, that I think that we really need to have conversations about, because that has a bearing on our entire industry as media. There has always been a level of quote unquote access journalism, right? What Adam Schefter does, what Shams Charania does, like, that's access journalism. And it depends on having sourcing that is closer than other journalists might have. Now, that being said, I think the teachable moment here is don't get this level of close to your sources, sure. And if you do, tell your boss, get taken off the then Titans beat, or, don't report on this. If I'm, even if we're going back to the World Cup thing, FIFA released, quote unquote, the 18-member committee that supposedly had this independent review. There was a United States judge on there who obviously had to recuse themselves. And they said, you have to recuse yourself from things that are conflicts of interest, and you have to be very honest about what those conflicts are. And I think that's the teachable moment, is that we have to be a lot more transparent. If we're journalists and seeking transparency in what we report on, we have to show that and exhibit that ourselves.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I just, I wonder, I believe there could be some good that ultimately comes out of this. You think of Access Journal, I think of Jordan Schultz too, who another guy that I've known for a long time.
I worked with Jordan back before I was a journalist. I know Jordan quite well, and he's a very good person, but absolutely has been able to become the reporter that he is because of the access that he was afforded as a kid.
Yeah, and that's sort of, where a lot of this is going. And, in the world of TikTok and Instagram and all these different areas where this stuff blurs. Do you think, question for you, Do you think Diana Rossini has a place in media coming out of this eventually? Because we are a forgiving nation. We are one that loves second chances and comeback stories. Do you think there winds up being a place for her in your mind?
I think there should be, given the men that we have forgiven in the past. I think that there's not a woman who comes to mind who has been given that second chance. I'm not trying to play that card. I just can't think of one. So let's see if redemption is equally doled out.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see as well. Kavitha Davidson does a great job, columnist over at MS Now. You can see her on the History Channel. Apparently she's on NPR, and I didn't know it because she mentioned that earlier, almost as if to tell me, hey, I'm on NPR. Always appreciate you, my friend. Be well.
No, always appreciate you. Thank you for having me on.
Welcome back. New segment every Tuesday on the show. It's called Hot Take Tuesday. We have opinions on everything every day. But we're going to save at least one really spicy take for Tuesdays. Which brings us to Hot Take Tuesday. All right, Sam Yarnell, the inaugural edition of Hot Take Tuesday. You have a little over 3 minutes. Uninterrupted, I will not get in your way. No matter how crazy you go. No matter how loud you get and overmodulated, and I have to figure out a way to make it sound good in post. Sam Yarnell, Hot Take Tuesday, give me one.
I'm starting this segment with a real easy one. This is one of my cooler hot takes, but I figured, just test the waters nice and easily. It is July 7th as we are doing this show, and obviously we're still, a month away from, or a few weeks away from training camp at this point in the National Football League, but the Los Angeles Rams are notable Super Bowl favorites. They're plus 550. I believe the next closest team are the Bills and the Ravens at 10-1 each. My hot take is that that's too good of a number for the Los Angeles Rams. I think the Rams should have a shorter price right now to win the Super Bowl. What the Los Angeles Rams are doing, and I don't know if this is some crosstown consultation that's going on or whatever, but the most comparable thing it is the Los Angeles Dodgers in Major League Baseball. Right outside of, we don't have a Shohei Ohtani comparison in the National Football League. I think a lot of people wanted it to be Travis Hunter, and a lot of people got a little high off of the Shohei Ohtani fumes and injected that into the Travis Hunter archetype a little bit. But, when you look at this Rams team top to bottom, and the Myles Garrett is the Kyle Tucker of it all, right? Myles Garrett is the cherry on top that just kind of makes it what are we even doing this NFL season? It feels much like we have in the NBA with the Oklahoma City Thunder, much like we have in Major League Baseball with the Los Angeles Dodgers, the Los Angeles Rams are one of those teams that should be closer to 3-1 to win the championship coming into the season. It's a crazy thing to think about, Jason, because I know the Rams are that team, right? All they do, trade away their draft picks, get more talent. But this is where it's landed them. They're far and away the best team in the NFL in every phase of the game. I don't know how you're going to put anybody up against the Los Angeles Rams this year. I get it's a long season, and you got to put numbers where people are actually going to bet them. But to me, I saw plus 550 this morning on the Los Angeles Rams to win the Super Bowl. That seems like a number that is way too strong.
Before I get to my hot take, what would you set the number at if you were in the back rooms? If 500 or 550 or whatever is too much, what would you be setting that number at right now if Sam were creating the line?
Yeah. So in my mind, gosh, I know I'm going to get in the business of sports betting a little bit. In my mind, I want to say 3-1. You have to set no one's going to bet a 3-1 preseason Super Bowl favorite. You got to set it somewhere where people are going to bet it. I'd say probably 375. I'd say 375, 400. That's about where I'd put it right now.
Okay. Sam Yarnell, ladies and gentlemen. Hot Take Tuesday for me, and I've got one that's going to make all the Caitlin Clark people go nuts, but it's not a shot at Caitlin Clark. It's not a shot at Caitlin Clark. It's not a shot, at the W as a large. Not in the least bit. My hot take on this Hot Take Tuesday is this. Paige Bueckers is going to win an MVP before Caitlin Clark. Paige Bueckers is going to win a WNBA championship before Caitlin Clark. She's that good. And just because Caitlin Clark was the first to garner the headlines and everything she did at the collegiate level and bringing that to the WNBA with all the pressure that came with it, and I give her all the credit in the world for that, and she's getting beat up physically and all of this, and we've had these conversations on the show, and I appreciate all of that. I'm just talking about, from a pure player impact, X's and O's conversation on the WNBA. Through their first 56 games of their WNBA careers, go and look at the numbers. Paige Bueckers is every bit as good as Caitlin Clark has been. She shoots it for a better percentage. Shoots it for a better percentage from three. The numbers are comparable in the rebounds. Yes, Caitlin Clark has a better, assists per game. But you start to look at the numbers and the winning and the volume of winning that Paige Bueckers is doing very early on in her career. And she doesn't have the talent around her that Caitlin Clark does. And you can talk about all the injuries that Paige Bueckers suffered in college, which set her back getting to this point. Otherwise, her and Caitlin Clark would have been coming out even closer to each other in terms of when they came into the league. Ultimately, Paige Bueckers is going to wind up being better than Caitlin Clark. And that's not meant to be a shot at Caitlin Clark, who I think is a great player, a generational player. But I think if you're not watching Paige Bueckers the way that everybody's telling you to watch Caitlin Clark every time she takes the court, then you're missing great basketball. You're missing greatness. She's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in the WNBA. Her mid-range game is out of this world. Bueckers through 56 games. She's now scored 25, I believe, in 5 straight games for Dallas. And go look at that Dallas roster. It ain't the Indiana Fever. I got news for you. And they're 12-8 on the season. Sam Yarnell, Paige Bueckers to win a WNBA title and MVP before Caitlin Clark.
It's interesting. It is certainly, you brought the heat on Hot Take Tuesday. Listen, yes, Paige Bueckers is great. She's like almost as good as Caitlin Clark numbers wise right now. I think Caitlin's like a little better assist wise and like averaging like a point more a game. Mm-hmm. The thing that concerns me about Paige and the entire Dallas team, Jason, what they did in the draft this last year. How's that relationship with AZ Fudd play out over her career?
So far, it's okay. And I think AZ Fudd's developed well so far. We're coming back. Odds and Ends wraps it up next. Okay, just about time to put the wraps on this baby for a Tuesday. Tomorrow's show, always fun when David Aardsma, former big league reliever and closer, is here. We'll get some thoughts with him on some of the top stories around baseball, and there are plenty to get to as we get closer to the All-Star break. Then we're at the trade deadline, and before you know it, pennant race baseball will be here. Kurt Heelan of Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com will be joining us from somewhere. I don't know if he's in Utah, Las Vegas, all these NBA Summer League events going on. Kurt will be with us on the show tomorrow as well. A couple of reminders before we go. The Sports Wrap with Jason Paige podcast. The audio version of this show available wherever you get your podcasts. Monday through Friday. Go and subscribe today. Audio version, 45 minutes, limited commercial interruptions, available early each afternoon. The Sports Wrap with Jason Paige YouTube channel is the place to find all things Sports Wrap with Jason Paige. The Monday through Friday TV version of the show, commercial free, waiting there for you like a good friend. We have extended conversations, Sports Wrap originals, Sports Wrap shorts, news breaks. We jump in, big game happens, big moment happens. We jump in and give it to you with Sports Wrap shorts. Those available on the YouTube channel. Sports Wrap shorts also available on our TikTok, Sports Wrap Jason Paige, and on our Instagram by that same name, Sports Wrap Jason Paige. All right, without any further delay. Oh, wait, I forgot one more thing. Rewind the tape. The Sports Wrap website. Forgot to tell you about that. SportsWrap.tv is the place to go. Right there, above my head. SportsWrap.tv, the place to go for everything related to this show. You can contact us through there. Send us your comments, your criticisms, your praise. You could send praise too. That's fine. Send your notes there. We've also got the daily version of the show available there, extended conversations. We've got the Sports Wrap with Jason Paige daily Substack newsletter. You can subscribe there. Everything that you could possibly want having to do with this show. Find your affiliate. If you want to know what station the show is on in your market, all you do is go there, put in your city and state, and you'll find out where you can watch the show. SportsWrap.tv for that. All right, without any further delay, on this Tuesday edition of the show, it's time for some odds and ends. Odds and ends. What happens in a baseball game? And you got to see this to believe it. Jason Dominguez, Yankees beat the Tampa Bay Rays last night. Yankees beat the Rays, get closer in the AL East. I think they're just a few games back in the AL East. They had lost like 9 of 10 going into this game. Cam Schlittler pitched well. But watch what happens. You get a pitch thrown. Watch the pitch. Here it is. It's clearly low. Jason Dominguez taps his helmet, and the home plate umpire doesn't see it. And I mean, it's right in front of you. How could you miss it? Review only works if the umpire knows to acknowledge the review so they can review the pitch. Maybe he didn't want to get shown up by it being such a terrible call behind home plate. I don't know. Aaron Boone came out to argue. Jason Dominguez tried to express his point of view on it. And unfortunately, it didn't go the Yankees' way. The game did. They wound up winning. Jose Caballero hit a couple of home runs against his former mates. Ben Rice also hit a home run in the game. But how do you miss this? I mean, look, it's right in front of him, tapping his helmet. The umpire's right there. How do you miss it? And again, review only works if the umpire actually sees the play. Yeah, I know. I saw you tap your head too, Jason. We're all kind of scratching our heads watching. Along those lines, oh, look, it's CB Buckner on your screen. Speaking of bad umpires, there are 7 umpires that have elected to accept a buyout from Major League Baseball at the end of this season. And some of them are the very worst umpires. CB Buckner and Laz Diaz at the top of the list. They're gone at the end of the year. But here's the thing. If you're done at the end of the season anyway, and you're accepting a buyout, and you're these guys, do you really give any Fs? Do you give any flying Fs about anything that goes on in your games? I mean, if you want to throw guys out of games, you think a call is questionable and a player argues with it, do you think any of these umpires are going to care the rest of the season? Brian O'Nora, Lance Barksdale, Marvin Hudson, Tony Rendazzo, Andy Fletcher, all done at the end of the year. We're going to have 7 new umpires in Major League Baseball next season. That is always a good thing to get some new blood into the major leagues. And a lot of guys probably getting really excited at the AAA level, thinking they may have a chance next season to be umpiring in the show. Last but not least, this guy, Sasha Zverev, who won his first Grand Slam at the French Open at Roland Garros. He is through to the quarterfinals at Wimbledon for the first time in his career. He beat Yuri Lehechner, whatever the guy's name was. I'm butchering it, I'm sure. He wins in 4 sets to Sasha Zverev. His reward for finally getting to a Wimbledon quarterfinal, it will be Taylor Fritz, who's beaten Sasha Zverev 7 straight times. So the happiest person at Wimbledon today at the All England Tennis Club is clearly Taylor Fritz. He gets Sasha Zverev in the quarterfinals of that event. We'll have more on Wimbledon on tomorrow's show, but Sasha Zverev trying to get another Grand Slam in his column. And who knows, in a year where we've seen one first-time winner in Sasha Zverev, maybe Taylor Fritz could get his first and get the U.S. off the schneid on the men's side when it comes to winning one of these slams, because it's been forever and a day since that happened. And that's going to do it for us on this Tuesday edition of the show. Thank you to Kavitha Davidson. Thanks to Sam Yarnell. Thanks to all of you at home for watching. I'm Jason Paige. That does it for Sports Wrap. We'll see you back here on Wednesday.